Hello, year 3 and 4, it's me, Mr. A, back with story time for another day, and I'm going to carry on with the amazing story of Adolphus Tips. Saturday, December 18th, 1943. I love Christmas carols, especially in the bleak midwinter. I wish we didn't only sing them at Christmas time. We had our carol concert this afternoon in the church and I had to sing my verse in front of everyone. I wobbled a bit on one or two notes, but that's because I was trembling all over, like a leaf, just before I did it. Barry told me it sounded perfect, but I knew he said that just to make me happy, and it did. But then I thought about it. The thing is that Barry can sing only on one note, so he wouldn't really know if it sounded good or bad, would he? There's only a fortnight to go now before we're supposed to leave. Barry keeps asking me what will happen to Grandfather if he doesn't move out. He's frightened they'll take him off to prison. That's because we had a visit yesterday from the army and the police telling Grandfather he had to pack up and go or he'd be in real trouble. Grandfather saw them off good and proper, but they said they'll be back. I just wish Barry wouldn't keep asking me about what's going to happen, because I don't know, do I? No one does. Maybe they will put him in prison. Maybe they'll put us all in prison. Makes me very frightened every time I think about it, so I try not to. If I do think about it, then I'll just have to make myself worry about something else. This evening, Barry and me were sitting at the top of the staircase in our dressing gowns, listening to Mum and Grandfather arguing about it again down in the kitchen. Grandfather sounded more angry than I've ever heard him. He said he'd rather shoot himself than be moved off the farm. He kept on and on about how he doesn't hold with this war anyhow, and never did. How he went through the last one in the trenches and that was horror enough for one lifetime. If people only knew what it were really like, he said, and he sounded as if he was almost crying, he was so angry. If they knew, if they'd seen what I've seen, they'd never send young men off to fight again, never! He just wanted to be left alone in peace to do his farming. Again and again Mum tried to reason with him, tried to tell him that everyone in the village was leaving, not just us, that no one wanted to go but we had to, so that the Americans could practice their landings, go over to France and finish the war quickly. Then we'd all be back home soon enough, and Dad would be back with us, and the war would be over and done with. It would only be for a short time, she said. They'd promised. But Grandfather wouldn't believe her, and he wouldn't believe them. He said the Yanks were just saying that so they could get him out. In the end, he slammed out of the house and left her. We heard Mum crying, so we went downstairs. Barry made her a cup of tea, and I held her hands and told her it would be all right, that I was sure Grandfather would give in and go in the end. But I was just saying it. He won't go, not of his own accord anyway, not in a million years. They'll have to carry him out, and like Mum said, when they do it, we'll break his heart. Thursday, December 23rd, 1943. Letter from Dad to all of us, wishing us a happy Christmas. He says he's in Italy now, and it's nothing but rain and mud, and you go up one hill and there's always another one ahead of you. But that at least each hill brings him nearer to home. We'd just finished reading it at breakfast when there was a knock on the door. It was Mrs. Bloomfield. She was bringing her Christmas card, she said. Mum asked her in. She was all red in the face and breathless from her cycling. It seemed so strange having her here in the house. She didn't seem like our teacher at all, more like a visiting auntie. Tips was up on her lap as soon as she'd sat down. She sipped her tea and said how nice Tips was, even when she was sharpening her claws on her knees. Then suddenly she looked across at Grandfather. I don't remember everything she said, but it was something like this. You and me, Mr. Tregenza, she said, I think we have so much. How do you say it in English? In common? Grandfather looked a bit flummoxed. Good word, that. They told me you are the only one in the village who won't leave. I would be just like you, I think. I loved our home in Holland, in Amsterdam. It is where I grew up. All I loved was in our home. But we had to leave. We could do nothing else. There was no choice for us because the Germans were coming. They were invading our country. We did what we could to stop them, but it was no good. There were too many tanks and planes. They were too strong for us. My husband, Jacobus, was a Jew, Mr. Tregenza. I am a Jew. We knew what they wanted to do with Jews. They wanted to kill us all like rats, get rid of us. We knew this, so we had to leave our home. We came to England, Mr. Tregenza, where we could be safe. Jacobus, he joined the merchant navy. He was a sea captain in Holland. We Dutch are good sailors like you English. He was a good man and a very kind man, as you are. Barry has told me this, and Lily too. They may have killed him, Mr. Tregenza, but they have not killed me, not yet. They would if they could. If they come here, they will. Grandfather's eyes never left her face all the time she was talking. That is why I ask you to leave your home as I did, so that the American soldiers can come. They will borrow your house and your fields for a few months to do their practicing. Then they can go across the sea and liberate my people and my country, and many other countries too. This way the Nazis will never come here, never march in your streets. This way my people will not suffer any longer. I know it is hard, Mr. Tregenza, but I ask you to do this for me, for my husband and my country, for your country too. I think you will, because I know you have a good heart. I could see Grandfather's eyes were full of tears. God, mine are too. He got up, shrugged on his coat and pulled on his hat without ever saying a word. At the door he stopped and turned around. Then all he said was, "I'll say one thing, missus. I wish I'd had a teacher like you when I was a little un." Then he went out and Barry ran after him, and we were left there looking at one another in silence. Mrs. Bloomfield didn't stay long after that, and we didn't see Grandfather and Barry again until they came back for lunch. Grandfather was washing his hands in the sink when he suddenly said that he'd been thinking it over and that we could all start packing up after lunch, that he'd begin moving the sheep over to Uncle George's right away, and he'd be needing both Barry and me to give him a hand. Then very quietly he said, "Just so long as we can come back afterwards." "We will, I promise," Mum told him, and she went over to hug him. He cried then. That was the first time I've ever seen Grandfather cry. Oh dear. Right. Oh, sorry, totes emosh. Right. There you go. We'll carry on with that tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody, and take care. Bye-bye.